We must become more than we were programmed to be.
This week on Talking About the Movies, it's catch-up time. I have a lot of movies I need to catch up on, so why not start off with probably the most anticipated movie I had for the rest of the year, DreamWorks' latest animated feature, The Wild Robot. Plus,
we can transform now!
On 3, 1... It's working! Where's my head? How do we use these things? Oh, look at wheels! I need wheels!
Yet another animated movie centering around robots released in the month of September. Go figure. Let's take a look at Transformers 1, a double feature this week on Talking About the Movies. And welcome to Talking About the Movies, where of course we talk about the biggest new releases of the weekend. And it's been a while. It may not seem like a while to you guys since I do post here every day, but on this particular show, it has been a little bit longer than usual. There has been some movies I've been wanting to check out. In fact, I know that a couple weeks ago I had the Pick games back-to-back, so I missed out on those particular weekends to do a show here. And I was all set to go last weekend, but yeah, you could thank possibly the future Vice President of the United States for doing that, because J.D. Vance had an event happen last week at the Monroeville Convention Center, so that meant that it was probably going to be packed with people, a lot of cars everywhere, and usually I like to go walk around after I'm done with the movies, but yeah, I just decided not to go, and I just waited until this week. So yeah, so that's mostly why there was a delay from the usual schedule I had planned for this. Like, I did plan on reviewing these two movies I'm about to talk about last week, but of course things got in the way of that. But I am here this week, so there is going to be a stretch of movies here, because I have a lot of movies to catch up on. I haven't seen the new Joker movie yet. I want to go see that new Pharrell Williams Lego movie that comes out next week, but that'll probably be about 2 weeks from now when I get to that one. And then after that is Saturday Night, the Saturday Night Live movie, which I'm really looking forward to checking that one out as well. So it should be a packed October, I will say that. So hopefully I get back to a regular schedule here, but I make no guarantees. And like I said, I'm going to try to get to Joker and Megalopolis next week, but don't make it, like I said, I make no guarantees. But with all of that said, let's get to the two movies that you want to hear me talk about. The ones that I literally set up in the opening there, and on the descriptions down below, and the title below. Let's talk about the first movie we have here. Coincidentally, two animated movies nonetheless, about robots. But let's go ahead and look at the one that I was really looking forward to a lot. This was probably my most anticipated movie for the rest of the year up until now when it came out. So let's talk about The Wild Robot. So The Wild Robot takes place on this uninhabited island where a robot gets shipwrecked and must adapt to her surroundings, build relationships with the local wildlife, and then becomes the adoptive mother of an orphan goose that she finds when she accidentally kills the nest that he was living in. And yeah, that's part of the reasons why this movie kind of works for me. But this is based off of a series of books that I've honestly never heard of before, so I'm just going by the movie itself. And the trailers for this movie looked absolutely incredible. I mean, right from the get-go, when that first trailer came out, I was already all in on this, because it looks so beautiful animation-wise. The trailer did such a good job of setting itself up for what this movie was going to be like. You know, it has a great cast. Lupita Nyong'o plays the robot in here. You have Pedro Pascal as this fox she and him eventually become friends. The goose in here is played by Kit Connor, who I've never seen before. I've never seen him in anything noteworthy before, but I know that he's in a show called Heartstop. I think it's called Heartstopper on Netflix. But I thought he was really good in here too when he grows up as a goose in general. You also have Bill Nighy, Stephanie Hsu, Mark Hamill, Catherine O'Hara, Ving Rhames. Just a phenomenal cast in this movie. And it's directed by Chris Sanders, who has made a lot of great movies. You know, Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon, The Croods. You know, I don't care what anybody says. I like The Call of the Wild too. I know that one was not as well received as the other ones were, but I still like that one a lot. But this felt like a return to form for him. I mean, this is right back to what makes him such a great director in the first place. Working with Dean DeBlau once again as the producer on this. It's just, you know, I was so looking forward to seeing what this movie was going to offer, and everything about this movie that I thought the trailers were offering nearly came to be in this movie. I really, really like this movie a lot. This is probably very high up there with my favorite movie of the year, which is Inside Out 2. I mean, this is very high up there. This is probably my second favorite movie of the year so far. I absolutely love this movie, man. This is just such a great movie that just works on everything that I love about animation. I mean, you could just tell they took a lot of Chris Sanders took a lot of inspiration from Disney. Well, of course he did, because he worked at Disney around the time, but not just the Disney that when he was working there, but like classic Disney. Like, this whole movie just feels like a lot of inspiration was taken from Bambi. And Bambi, of course, is my all-time favorite movie. I just did a commentary for that movie over on the Reviewing Network Live channel, which cheap plug there. If you want to go check that out, go ahead and check it out. I'll leave the channel link down below so you can go to that. But yeah, you could watch this movie and definitely see, yeah, there is a lot of Bambi in here. This movie takes place over the course of many months, over the course of many seasons. Like, you see it take place in the summer at first, and then in the fall, and then the winter, and then the spring, and then back in the summer again. It also takes a lot of inspiration from Hayao Miyazaki too, which you can definitely see that at times in here. And the movie is just so good on a number of different levels. I think the final moment when I knew I was probably going to like this movie a lot was when I watched Doug Walker's review of this movie, and he said this movie reminded him of an 80s PG movie. And it's just like, he went into this whole thing about why it was so much like that, and it's just like, you had me at 80s PG, because 80s PG, for those of you youngsters out there that, youngsters, I mean, I'm 35 years old, so I'm still in that little demographic there, but I'm definitely getting older, so yeah. For you youngsters out there that see all these PG movies, like, you know, My Little Pony, the movie gets a PG rating, and I just saw there was a trailer for this movie. It was with this movie called Grace, and I think it was called Grace and Pedro Pets to the Rescue, that looks so cheap, so lazy, and so unbelievably awful. I mean, it looks like a movie that you would see before it eventually, it's like a fake movie you see before there's a commercial telling you to silence your phone. Like, even that got a PG rating. A Paw Patrol movie got a PG rating. Think about that. But when I tell you this, like, this movie really does feel like an 80s PG movie. Like, this feels like a Don Bluth movie is at various points, because there are animals that get killed off in this pretty quickly. I mean, right from the get-go, like I said before, you know, this robot's trying to get away from this bear because she can't understand the language, and like, she falls off a cliff, and then she hits a tree, and then all of a sudden she crashes right into a goose nest, killing everybody in there, including kids too. Like, you see her grabbing the wing of one of the birds. It's just like, Jesus, like same rating by the way, same rating as Paw Patrol the Mighty movie. This just goes to show you how much the MPAA is so screwed up right now. But that's where, of course, she finds a little goose egg that she finds, and when it hatches, it becomes, the egg becomes associated with her as her mother, and so she essentially takes to that. And the great thing about this movie is the progression of the character of Roz the robot, because she does start off quite literally as a walking advertisement. Again, Doug Walker kind of said it best in the review, that she literally does start off as a walking advertisement. Like, she thinks that every animal around there is a potential customer, and she's just like, hello, are you the person that ordered me? How satisfied are you with your order? Like, she takes a picture, and then, like, there's a QR code on one of them. Like, the animals get really annoyed by it pretty quickly, and, it gets to a point where she has to realize, okay, if I'm going to get anywhere, I have to adapt to all these animals. Like, so she spends, like, months in this blank-like trance, just like try to remember, just trying to get as much knowledge of all these animals as she can, and then she can finally understand them. And that's where the progression of the story begins, because it is a natural progression story for this character, and it helps you have a great actress in Lupita Nyong'o, who just makes that character work so well. And as the movie goes on, she never really steers away completely from character in general, but the progression and like more the emotional push that she gets, yes, the more she becomes more and more invested in this goose that she has to take care of. It's a really good progression storyline here. It has a lot of charm to it. There's a lot of great, charming moments in this film between all the animals. Pedro Pascal, I think, is very good playing Fink the Fox in this. Like, I like the chemistry that she and him have in this movie. I like the fact that, this movie I said it before, it takes a lot of influence from Bambi, but at the same time, they also do something that I like that was very much from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where like, you know, they have this big moment where, you know, you have the third act breakup in this movie, and that usually is the death nail, but they do it pretty early on in the movie, and it's like completely forgotten immediately because they understand, like, you know, it was completely an accident, and we don't need to overstate this too long. And yeah, I think that's well done. I think it's a very well done scene, and like in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, when, you know, Neil and Del have that blow up, and then towards the end of the first act of the movie, like, that's great. Like, you know, that's great to get that out of the way, so it doesn't take away from the rest of the enjoyment of the movie, because the movie is so damn good. The animation in this movie is so beautiful to look at. Like, I don't know what kind of I think it's a I'm reading it right here on Wikipedia, hand-painted aesthetic. That makes sense, because it does feel like a little bit watercolory at times. Like, again, this is the same director that did Lilo and Stitch, which had a lot of watercolor efforts into it. Put a lot of watercolor effort into it, and I think it does work very well in this film in particular. But most notably, this is the final film animated entirely inside of DreamWorks. Every movie coming from DreamWorks from this point forward is going to go to outside vendors, like the next one, Dogman, which looks incredibly fun, by the way. They had a trailer for that too, and I saw the trailer for it a couple weeks ago, and I thought that was actually really cool. Really a fun concept overall, and I especially love the, you know, Captain Underpants. It's made by the same guy who did that, so I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out indeed. So I'm looking forward to seeing where DreamWorks goes from here, but to go out on a high note like this, because this really is a high note of a movie, the thing that I think everybody is going to take away from this movie is the emotional moments, and the emotional moments in here struck gold. I mean, these are great moments. You see the moment in the trailer where, you know, Ross has to say goodbye to Bright Bill, you know, as he's going off on the migration. You know, she's basically completed her task of, you know, making sure that this bird is able to survive and not get eaten. And, you know, that great moment when she leaves and, like, the feather comes off and she, like, grabs it from the trailer. Like, that's a great moment right there. There's a lot of great moments like that throughout the course of the movie. There was one moment towards the climax of the movie that was so damn good too, that I don't think anybody really is talking about all that much. But it's this moment where, like, you know, there's the company that made Roz comes back and tries to take her back to headquarters, and, like, they take out it looks like they took out her memories, and, you know, Bright Bill's trying to find her, and, like, he finds her like lifeless body, and you think, like, okay, they did the deed and it's pretty much over and done with. And, like, he goes on this little spiel telling her about, you know, it wasn't your fault what happened, and, like, you know, they basically, you know, they say, like, you know, I love you and all that stuff, and then slowly but surely she comes back online and she's like, I love you too. And it's just like, you know, like, I'm kind of like simplifying it here, but it's just the way it was done. It was so beautifully handled. I don't think a lot of people are really going to talk about that moment in general, because the moments before that are so damn good. A lot of great moments in this movie, a lot of great emotional moments too, like the moment where, you know, there's a storm going on, and, like, Roz and Fink have built this big dome to keep Bright Bill protected, but because all these animals are out in the cold, Ross decides, you know, I'm going to bring all these animals in here, and, you know, Fink has to have this big speech about, you know, hey, I know you're all predators, I know you all want to eat each other, but, you know, we need to survive the storm, and, like, we have to stay together here. And so they eventually come together in the end, and it's just like, moments like that really do show why this movie is so special. I have a couple of nitpick things. Probably my biggest one is that they add an antagonist at the end of the movie, voiced by Stephanie Hsu, who has kind of a cool design overall. She's like one of the robots, except instead of, like, having the same kind of, like, you know, the same type of design that Roz has in the movie, she has, like, tentacles and, like, can move around and all that, which is a cool design, but the delivery by Stephanie Hsu, who's a great actress, so I've seen her in The Fall Guy this year. She was really good. Of course, she was great in Everything Everywhere All at Once, but here, she really did feel like it was kind of being phoned in here. I know we got to have an antagonist in the end of the movie here, because you're gonna have the company trying to come back and take Roz back away from her family, this family that she has now, and I just feel like there could have been so much more done with that particular character in general. I mean, it's not as bad as in Call of the Wild, where you have Luke Evans as the antagonist. It just comes out of nowhere, but, like, it's
it's definitely could have been a whole lot better put together, and like, you know, maybe if she had emoted a little bit more and showed more of her evil side in general, but they don't really do that here, and I think that really is one of the biggest things that really kind of took me back a little bit here. It doesn't ruin the overall ebb and flow of the movie in general, but just really felt like something that could have been much better handled in this case here. But the only other real complaint I have about this movie isn't even with the movie itself. It's the fact that the trailer had a song in there that I wanted to hear in the movie, and I think you know which one I'm talking about. Yeah, that's not in the movie. Like, that version of What a Wonderful World was so beautifully handled. I think that's actually Lupita Nyong'o doing the music, doing the lyrics for that, but singing that song, and it's nowhere in the movie. And it's just like, what happened? Like, why was that not in there? I was really looking forward to hearing that song in there. Now, it could have been in the end credits, but, I mean, I kind of left it after the first set of credits and it came to an end, because I had to run over to the next movie I had to see. So I don't know if it was in there. I doubt it was in there, because I haven't heard anybody say that it is in there. But that was so disappointing not to have that song being in there. And I just felt like, you know, it's hard to find that song on its own. Like, the only way you can find that song is through that trailer. And it's just like, that just really kind of bummed me out a little bit, because I really wanted to hear that song in the movie, the full version of it. And hopefully DreamWorks will put it out there at some point. Universal, if anyone out there at Universal or DreamWorks is listening, put that song out there, please. Put it out there so on its own solo, as its own solo single, please, for the love of God. But other than that, though, like I said, it doesn't. None of those nitpicks really take away from how much I really enjoyed this movie, and I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I mean, this is a fantastic film. Like I said, it's my second favorite movie of the year, behind Inside Out 2. It lived up to all the expectations I had, and then some. It's a really great movie. I'm getting so choked up about it, I can't even finish the review. I can't recommend this one enough. If you have not seen The Wild Robot, you are doing yourself a major, major disservice by not doing so. I highly recommend it. Big thumbs up. 2 big thumbs up. I love this movie so much. Definitely check it out. One of the best movies of the year. So that's one of the 2 animated robot movies that came out in the month of September. Here's the other one that probably should get the same kind of attention that The Wild Robot does, but unfortunately, it is not. But and I say unfortunately because it's also a really good movie too. Let's talk about Transformers 1. So Transformers 1 is the first official animated movie in this CG animated movie in this new Transformers franchise, if you will. Not including the 1986 movie, but this is the Michael Bay movies, because Michael Bay is one of the producers on here. And in here, it takes place on Cybertron, the home planet of the Transformers, and depicts the origins of early relationships of Optimus Prime and Megatron, who in this movie are Orion Pax and B-16, played by Chris Hemsworth and Brian Tyree Henry. Throughout their adventures, they come across other characters, such as Bumblebee, played by Keegan-Michael Key, and as well as other characters like Sentinel Prime, played by John Hamm, Lawrence Fishburne, Scarlett Johansson, Steve Buscemi are among the cast as well here. The film did not do well at the box office. It's not doing bad business in general, but they were expecting a lot more from it, especially considering how the Transformers movies have been successful in the past. Kind of like what happened with Rise of the Beast, which I thought was a really good Transformers movie that nobody went to go see. It kind of came and went at the box office, but I think the good word of mouth on it, critic-wise, is going to save that series from going back to what it used to be, and I think that the good word of mouth on this movie in general will save that movie as well. But yeah, this is a really good movie. I don't think it's as good as The Wild Robot, but there's a lot of things about this movie that I really do think stand out the best in this film. For one thing, the animation is so well done. This is animation done by Industrial Light and Magic, of course, George Lucas's company. And this is Paramount Animation, of course, and it's directed by Josh Cooley, who did Toy Story 4, which, yeah, I like that movie a lot. I know it's a pointless addition to the Toy Story trilogy, but it's still a really good movie. It's still a good Toy Story movie, and I will stand by that until the day I die. Now, if you want to see a pointless Toy Story movie, Lightyear exists. So, go and check that out. But the animation in this movie is so beautifully handled. Like, this is really damn good animation that really just feel like something straight out of the 1980s at times, especially when they go to the surface and they find that, and they're on this waste, this train with waste on it, and they go up to the surface, and it's just like, you feel like you're in a 1980s music video. Like, I almost kept expecting, you know, the Simpsons 80s couch gag with Push It to the Limit, like, what was it, Lazy Rider starting up in the background, because they were literally shots that felt like that was about to begin. Like, that's how good the animation was in this movie. Like, it was so well done. It does start off slow. I think about maybe the first, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes kind of start off slow. But once we get to the crux of the storyline here, we start to realize that, you know, not everything is as it seems, and it leads into what the main conflict of the movie is. That's where the movie really does get going, and it really does set itself up for something really, really impressive for a movie that really is not that long in general. With Transformers movies in general, like, the worst ones are so long. Like, I think Last Night was almost 3 hours long, and it's just like, you know, Age of Extinction and Last Night were just such terrible movies in general that they were not. They really didn't make it worth it in the long run. But like Rise of the Beast, Transformers 1, they kept it short, they kept it consistent, and they kept it entertaining. And in this case, I like what they did here with this movie in general. Like, I think, like, Optimus Prime, like Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime, I'll admit, started off kind of slow in general, but I think as the movie goes on and the progression goes on, it's more he becomes the Optimus Prime that we know of. Like, you really do get the sense that Chris Hemsworth really is doing the best he can to emulate what Peter Cullen did with the original Optimus Prime voice in general, especially towards the end of the movie when he actually becomes Prime at the end. And I thought that was very well done. I liked the progression of that character in general. The one thing that I think everybody should take away from this movie is Brian Tyree Henry as D16, who his progression throughout the course of the movie, from being the best friend of Orion Pax to becoming the enemy of Optimus Prime and Megatron, is so damn good. Like, there's a reason why Brian Tyree Henry is one of the great actors we have right now, because not only of his work in the Spider-Man movies, but, like, this is the guy that was nominated for an Academy Award for Causeway, which is a terrific film. The guy has proven his worth over the years, and in this movie, this is probably his overall magnum opus as an actor as a whole, because, like, he starts off as the cool best friend to Optimus Prime, but then as he slowly but surely realizes the truth of everything that's going on with the bad guy in the movie, who is obviously Sentinel Prime, you know, like, he just turns into the Megatron that we know he's going to turn into. But the progression and the build up to it is so well done, to that moment towards the end when he finally snaps into full-on Megatron. It's just like, it's impressively done. And this movie can get brutally dark sometimes too. Like I said, The Wild Robot was dark too as an 80s PG movie. This movie doesn't really do that until the very end, where D16 literally rips Sentinel Prime in half. Like, you know, that's his goal all along, and he essentially claims himself as the new leader of Cybertron before Optimus Prime comes back in general. And like the reveals of when they finally become the Optimus Prime and Megatron that we know of, just pitch perfect, man. Like, this is a really, really good movie in general. Like I said, it starts off slow. It does start off slow. It starts off kind of like you expect a movie like this, but you do buy into the idea that Prime and Megatron could be best friends, very good best friends, before the events of what will take place eventually happens. Like, you understand why this is so frustrating to them, and like to Optimus Prime and the two of them when they have to pick a side in general, and of course that breakup at the end of the movie. Like, it's so well done. It reminds me a lot of The Prince of Egypt, you know, with Moses and Ramesses in that movie, where their brothers are through and through, and like they're willing to do whatever it takes for they love each other no matter what. And like when they go their separate ways, and you know they have their own different opinions on how the way things work, like you could still feel that they still feel for each other, but they can't show it. And just the progression in that movie is so well done. It's so well done in that movie too. It reminded me a lot of what they do here in this film. If there's any real complaints I have towards the movie, it's that, like, there are sometimes there are scenes that go on a little bit too long, and some scenes that don't quite add up all that much. Like like there's some things about there's some things that don't really, like, minor things in the story that really don't work as well as I think they probably should. I feel like there should be a lot more progression to a lot more of a consistent storyline building, and in general here to like really move the movie along here. But the story overall I think works fine for what it does. I think the animation is great too. Seeing Cybertron like the way it is in this movie is so well done. I love the idea that anytime any of these Transformers or any of these cars have to get on this, have to use the wheels and all that, the road just quickly builds underneath them. Like there's nothing before them until a car is literally on them. And like I like that idea. I think that's a very good idea in general. And like it's just so fun to see Cybertron in real life in this movie. I think Bumblebee was giving us a good idea of what Cybertron would look like in the beginning of that movie. Another great Transformers movie, which basically continues my theory that take Michael Bay away from these movies as much as you can, and the results will speak for themselves. And this is about as good as you can get. This is probably overall the best Transformers movie I've seen. And yeah, I think this. I don't know. I'm trying to think if I want to say it's better than Transformers the movie, the '86 one, which I would say yes. Like, I mean, it's close. Transformers, the '86 Transformers movie is great. But this is a movie that I think takes it to another level because you have such a good director who has worked with Disney and Pixar in the past. You have good writers here. I think these guys actually worked on, if I'm not mistaken, Guardians of the Galaxy. I think because I could have sworn one of them worked on Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe both of them. Now I'm curious. Okay, not Guardians of the Galaxy, but all these guys have written a lot of Marvel stuff. I mean, a lot of these guys have come from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, Eric Pearson has done a ton of stuff from Marvel. I mean, everything from Agent Carter to short films. I mean, he did a lot of rewrites for Ant-Man and Spider-Man Homecoming. He worked for Ragnarok. Not just that, but like Pokemon Detective Pikachu, he had an uncredited rewrite on. He wrote the Godzilla vs. Kong. He wrote like, the worst thing I see that he's written here was Quantumania, but even then, there's still stuff about that movie I really like a lot. But these guys have been around a lot, and I guess they've taken a lot of their work from Marvel in general, and brought it into this movie here, because there is a lot of fun stuff that makes the Marvel Cinematic Universe work well, that's done well in this particular movie. This is such a well-made film overall. I really love it a lot. Like, it's a movie I really want to see again. Like, I can't wait to check this one out again down the road. But from an animation perspective, from a story perspective, from a humor perspective, from the voice work, the world building, this is without a doubt the best Transformers movie ever. I'm willing to say that now. Like, I like Transformers the movie a lot, but I'm willing to go as far as to say this is Transformers at its absolute best. And hopefully this is not the end of the road for this despite the box office. I think Paramount's realizing, like, yeah, the critics are liking this more, the audiences are liking these more. Do more movies like this. Hopefully down the road this will be the continuation of where this series goes from here. But I really like this one a lot. I give this one a big thumbs up. I definitely like this one a lot. Definitely check it out. Transformers 1. So as I mentioned before, we will go ahead and take a look at Joker Filet and do a Megalopolis, hopefully, next week. So I have a lot of movies to catch up on, and then after that, piece by piece, Saturday night. And I could have sworn there was one other one I wanted to try to get to see, but October should be a packed month in general. So hopefully this will work out in my favor. So I hope to see you guys next week for another review, but if not, I'll see you the week after that. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you want to, I want to know your thoughts on the Wild Robot and Transformers 1. Let me know down below. If you like this, hit the like button, subscribe button, notification button, and I'll see you guys next time. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.